Good morning and welcome to the April 22nd meeting of the Merrimack Trustees of Trust Funds. I'm Chris Christensen. To my right is,
Bill Wilkes, trustee.
and my left,
Pat Heinrich, trustee.
And Tom Boland, finance director for the town.
and visiting, I'm sorry,
Liz Petrides, I'm not an alternate yet, right?
Isn't it? Not
Yeah.
yet. Not yet.
Okay. Okay, first order of business is the minutes of March, was it 18th? That's interesting. I skipped the minutes in the agenda.
No, you didn't.
No, you didn't.
No,
You put
but I
it as
mean,
five.
Item
I moved them further down.
Item 5.
Usually we have them as the first item. So the first item is to come back to SAU 26 request for funds about the Merrimack High School Library. We did have a meeting or a tour of the library facilities on the 14th of April. I don't know if there's any comments or thoughts following that tour.
I don't have any specific thoughts. It was interesting I had never seen the actual space. I was surprised how large it was, for one thing. And it looked kind of circa 1970s maybe. Nothing looked like it was in disrepair, but it was fairly old stuff. I guess I would support us funding a partial contribution to that project as an effort to upgrade it to this day and age, which is a lot different than the library world than it used to be back in the 70s or whenever that furniture and equipment was procured.
Is that a motion?
I guess it could be.
Okay, and my recollection is the amount was 159,000 and some change, so I would say 159.5. I mean, they had an estimate down to 51 cents or something. I don't think that's eventually gonna happen. And from the Gage and Lawrence Fund,
That would be fine.
second?
I'll be glad to second that. Bill, why did you say partial? Isn't this is this the complete project, as I understood?
Well, the only reason I said partial was because the school department's doing carpet and other things that we were not funding. My understanding, we weren't funding like carpet and,
I didn't understand that piece. I knew that they were talking about carpet, but I didn't understand from what she said that it was school district had money in their budget for that.
Yeah, that was
I don't-
my understanding as well.
Okay. 'Cause
That may have been a comment that happened before you arrived.
the project is probably gonna be significantly more than the amount that we're allocating,
I think you're probably right, and I think it may take longer
so.
than just I know they're hoping to do it this summer, but they also don't think it's gonna be done over the summer. They're gonna try.
If partial confuses things, then
Well, the motion is for 159.5, so that's what I heard from you. I just,
Yep.
okay.
because I didn't bring the paperwork with me, actually.
Okay. Any further comment, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, 3-0-0. I don't have any new correspondence. We're scheduled to meet with Cambridge Trust on whatever our May meeting date is.
20th, according to,
Okay, May 20th. Anything, questions or areas of discussion that you want to ask them to be prepared for?
I don't have any specific questions, but I am curious. I get 2 copies of the scholarship report, and I wondered, are they, am I missing something? Are they different, or, but I get 2 copies of what seems to be the same report.
Yeah.
I get the same, yeah.
We all
same
do.
thing. Yep.
They don't do that personally, it's
Okay,
hired out to a vendor. I have mentioned it or questioned it, but haven't had anything show up different.
is there a report missing? Because every time I try to figure out, is there one missing, and see if I can figure out that there's one missing that's not there.
No, everything's there,
Okay,
except the scholarship report is duplicated.
Yep.
Or printed twice, or
okay,
whatever phrase you want to use.
thank you.
My only question that pertaining to that exact subject is, do we need the frequency with that we're receiving, like once a month, or, I mean, could we get it electronically and then get a hard copy every 6 months or every year or whatever? Or, I just see it as a lot of paper.
It's a lot of paper.
An expense when you come right down to it for the mailing, particularly if they're mailing duplicates.
Right, right.
Well, it all comes in the same envelope, so it's not that big a deal.
I mean,
And like I say, it's a vendor, so we can ask about that.
I mean, if it was more modest, we could move to quarterly.
I kind of like the monthly reports, but I like the old format better when it was
Sectors.
book page.
Would you be
Instead of
fine
a-
with electronic? And then once a year, hard copy?
Well, we do get a condensed version at the end of the year, combining everything, so we get that already. It isn't distributed, it's just, that's the one that goes in the file drawer for permanent record. We can ask about it. So I'll just tell them we want to talk about reports.
I mean, some of the other subjects, the reason I'm not saying much is some of the other subjects that they usually present are some of the questions we have, like, you know, how's their ladder structure going? Where do they see rates,
Yeah.
you know, going into the future? Any particular stock moves that they've made, either buying or selling
Yeah.
for any particular reason?
Well, I'm curious about the laddering and whether we should be transitioning out of CDs and into more treasuries or something like that that don't have
I noticed that you could
the
get
same
1 year
same scheduling.
You could get 1 year treasuries the other day for 1.66
Yeah.
or something like that. So they are going up.
Well, that's for
Thanks.
discussion with them, because my concern, as I'm sure it is with everybody else, that the lag time, or buying anything for long-term right now, in an atmosphere of climbing interest rates is not necessarily the best way to go. Because you're always gonna have a lag there. And then you're stuck with stuff you don't want. Yeah, and there were a couple of, we bought and sold. The only trade we've had in the last month or two is Unilever, and sold that in both accounts or 3 accounts, and bought Nuveen mutual fund. They both have about the same yield, but the mutual fund has a fee on top of it. So I'm just curious about that. So I
And-
will bring those. Anything else, Pat?
Just the thing that came out the last time they were here was we were talking about looking at funds that were gonna make money. And they were gonna talk about looking into those. And of course, then Ukraine happened, so I don't know what's going on right now. And I expect I don't think we have to ask them. I think they're gonna tell us what's going on or what they think and what they predict or project or. So, but it did bring up 2 things that I was gonna ask regarding records. When you talked about quarterly reports and end-of-the-year report, is the end-of-the-year report December 30 or June 30?
June 30.
It is June 30, and we get reports from them at the end of the fiscal year rather than the calendar year.
Right.
Okay. Because when I was looking through the files, I wanted to be sure that we had the right one that we were keeping.
Well, yeah, and there are things that come out, most of the things when it says year-to-date,
Yeah,
that's calendar year.
that's the problem, is that that's calendar year, but, so is their financial, which one do I keep, or which one do we keep? Or keep the June and the December, and then we're covered? I was gonna bring that up later.
Well, it depends upon which report you're talking about, but the MS 9 and 10 are both filed separately because they go into the state portal.
Yes,
So that's really the record, but we keep their statement because it's a statement and there's a requirement to keep it. But what we really function with is the MS 9 and 10. And we used to get, a long time ago, a monthly MS 10, and we all looked at it and said, well, that's kind of useless because we're getting a regular statement that lists
right.
all the holdings anyway.
Yeah, the trust fund requirements in 33A are minutes and quarterly reports and bank statements in paper or electronic format you keep for 6 years. But quarterly reports you keep permanently. So I was gonna ask, what's a quarterly report? What's the month? Or how do we, is that the MS9? I mean, and we can
MS9.
talk about that later, but that's, I was gonna ask.
The annual report incorporates all of the activity through the year. So it's a duplicate of the quarterly report, or incorporates the quarterly information. So I think that's all we need to keep. Do you read it differently, Tom?
No, I'm not, I'm not sure they actually do anything that summarizes by quarter.
No,
We've
not
got
by
the
quarter,
monthly, which has the year-to-date, and then they do have the annual. I don't know that we have anything that captures quarter by quarter.
And yet, we just talked about quarterly reports. So what are they?
Well, Bill was suggesting that we might transition to a quarterly
Okay.
report.
All right.
But I'm happy with what we're getting right now, so we can ask about it. Because, they're doing several other towns, many other towns, I don't know the number. So they try to match everybody to what the state requirements are, and they're pretty good at it.
Well, the good news is that bank statements in paper or electronic format, we only have to keep 6 years after the audit, and the rest of them we can get rid of. But it specifically says quarterly reports, electronic format, keep permanently, or in paper format. And I just wondered what the month was that we were using for.
I don't know, I'm gonna say, regardless of the fact that it's in an RSA, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Why would
Well, it's those state representatives.
Yeah, well, the long and the short of it is, we're getting paperwork now that is consistent with what
Bless
we
you.
need.
Yeah.
Bless you. And you can bring it up for your questions when we get to it.
Okay.
But I will prep them that that's
Okay.
gonna be an area of discussion.
Okay.
I mean, it seems like it would be as simple as if you said that our fiscal year ended July 1, then you could, you could save the October, January December 31st or whatever, on the quarters.
Yep.
Could save the reports, and if that was a requirement, that's a report.
And if they're doing many towns, it's possible that they are set up to do a June 30 fiscal year end, as well as, because there's a lot of towns in New Hampshire that the fiscal year ends December 31st.
Right. Yeah, the majority of them.
Yeah, I know.
I think there's half a dozen that have a fiscal year.
Well, Merrimack is, standouts as being the oddball.
Anything else that I should be prepping them on?
No, I'm good.
Okay. So we've got reports, laddering, The Nuveen,
The
that's my
market.
question. Anything else?
Market, the market, when you
Well,
come right
they'll
down to
do
it.
that
I mean,
anyway.
that just, I think that goes without saying.
For what it's worth. Their crystal ball's about as good as anybody
Exactly.
else's.
Yeah,
Well, and we do get periodic newsletters. Of course, they're all written in Greenspan speak, so it's hard to tell what they really want to say. Okay, moving on.
Minutes.
Minutes of March 18th. Do we have a motion? Don't everybody jump at once. I'll move the minutes as distributed.
okay. I have a couple of corrections.
That's why I was waiting for you, Pat.
I know. Well, having been the president of the parent-teacher group at Thornton's Ferry, there is no asterisk in the name Thornton's. And I had to rewrite a T-shirt order one year because we put the asterisk in and we had to, so it's Thornton's Ferry without an apostrophe.
Okay?
And I have to tell you that all kinds of people came up during the election because I was at the Thornton's Ferry end of town to say thank you, thank you. I mean, just, they were really, really appreciative. And they actually raised $115,000 when the bottom line was, which I think is incredible.
For the
Playground.
Yes,
playground?
yes,
Excellent,
yes, they've done a great job.
excellent.
And to your comment about, will the other, yes, the other elementaries are already looking into it. But I think Thornton's Ferry set a wonderful example, and we'll see how much money, or if, but yeah, the other elementaries think that they should also have something along that line as well. And when you come right down to it, my opinion is that, yes, all three elementaries should have it, but I think the parents' groups ought to be helping
Sure,
Yeah,
along with Thornton's
absolutely.
Ferry.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember many years ago going out there personally and doing playground at Master Cole, and I don't think the school district, the town was involved in it at all, other than to say, here's where you want to put it.
Yeah.
And it was just a parent group that
Yes.
got their shovels and rakes and built the playground.
Well, as I said, I was there on the PTTF when we built when we bought the big toy, is what was called then, and we certainly worked on playground equipment, and we also had to deal with the fact that there was a septic system out in the back too that we couldn't put anything on. So, but they're very excited about it and looking forward to getting started.
So here's where the habit comes in. I wrote down no apostrophe in Thornton's. With an apostrophe.
Well, it's hard. It absolutely, Reed's is the same way. There's an S on the end of Reed's and Thornton's without an apostrophe, and nobody can tell me why, but they're very picky about that apostrophe, so I'm sorry, it just, old habit, jumped out at me.
All right, so is that a second with that correction? Scrivener's error?
There is one other correction, and I have difficulty presenting this, but the paragraph you wrote about, I move to approve the minutes as amended, the sentence doesn't make sense to me.
This is the minutes of
On the page.
January or November?
January. And then to make matters worse, I went onto the website to look at the amended minutes and discovered that there's a listing for minutes of the trustees of the trust fund having a February 18th meeting. And when you click on that, you get the town center minutes that are on our website. And there's also a listing that we're having a meeting tomorrow at 12:15. There's an agenda for that, which happens to be today's agenda. So our website's in kind of a disarray.
Yeah, I don't know. Who does that?
I send the stuff to Becky, and it gets done, I don't know.
I thought it was,
I don't know who actually does the key
yeah, I
punching.
don't either, but I just thought, oh.
All
There
right,
is a
well,
set of
that's
February,
not,
yeah.
that's not part of the
That's
minutes
not part of the
today, so
minutes, but I,
if you wanna fight
As I
with
said,
people downstairs, that's your
Actually-
fight. Let's finish the minutes first. So,
and the problem with the minutes as amended on January 21st is that you actually added a sentence to the minutes on the March 18th minutes. And me, Heinrich, later indicated you went back and you added something that wasn't even talked about it last month, or as part of those minutes in January. So I don't know
All
what
right, all
to
right,
do.
do one at a time. You're skipping around and I don't have the pages. For some reason, my pages aren't in sequence. I think they fell out of the printer. All right, so you move to approve January 21 minutes as amended to reflect that you had talked to the town manager, not to the town council.
I would like it to just say with the town manager, period, and just leave the rest. That's the easiest way to handle it.
Okay, I think we put town council in because it had been referred to in the previous month's minutes. But we can do that.
And so then I went back to see how the amend worked in the previous minutes, and
All right, so we'll just strike out all of that stuff. Is there anything else?
well, I went back to the previous minutes in January, the January 21st minutes, and there's an NB statement Heinrich later indicated that got added into those minutes.
Yep,
Why?
that's why it's an NB, because we
You don't
left-
get to do that unless you bring it here. We've already approved the minutes. If you're amending them, we have to amend
It's not
them.
an amendment, it's a note to them. Someplace in the records, we need to reflect that the issue you brought up was brought up incorrectly.
Actually, it wasn't incorrectly, because as part of what went on here, the Bear Christensen money got approved at town council, accepted, because that was the other thing I brought up. And it should, if you want to put something in, then it should be in the minutes where it was brought up, not the minutes that were approved.
Okay?
Thank you.
All right, so, as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And then I think we're up to future meetings. May 20th
All set.
with Cambridge Trust,
I'm good with that.
June 15th. And
Good
no
with
July
that.
meeting. June 15th is okay for you, Tom, to get money wired back and forth?
Yep.
Okay. And just as a note, I had a note from Michelle Holton that the MVD will probably be coming to the May meeting as well, just to put their piece in about future capital reserve fund withdrawals.
Okay.
Any other business that may properly come before the board?
As I mentioned earlier, I brought copies, actually. When the posting for today's meeting didn't happen until yesterday, I set an appointment to go look at the files downstairs, because I had set to say aside. And I started a policy on, and this is not a policy, but this is just copies of the statutes that I wanted to share. because that's what I was gonna be working off of.
Okay? Just one each.
And that's what got me thinking about the,
Okay, anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
before you do that, do we need to remind the town council about the alternate? Because now that the charter has passed,
Good point. They're working on future agendas to put it on the agenda,
oh, good,
and wanted to wait until they do their post-election reorganization.
okay,
They couldn't do it because, at the last meeting, because they have to wait until the period ends where you can call for a recount.
that's done now,
It is now, but it
Yeah.
wasn't then.
yeah,
So yes, they're aware of it.
okay, good,
Sorry, Liz. They're just dragging this out, I think, but
yeah.
So will Liz come to every meeting, sit up here, or how does that work?
yes.
That's the call of the board. But she has to be appointed first, so then they'll probably go through their whole process and however long that takes. But I just didn't want them, because we didn't request it after the charter amendment.
Yeah.
I wanted to be sure that it was still there.
Okay, there being no further business, we are adjourned. Thank you all. Can I get a lift, Bill?